How often do you think about the Oscars? About how many Oscar-winning films there are and how many you've seen? Yeah, there's a few famous Oscar-winning films that we've all seen. You know, The Godfather and Lord of the Rings and Titanic. I'm King of the World, all that stuff. But the Oscars have been running since 1927. There are currently over 1,000 films, feature-length films, which have won an Oscar. How many have you seen? I did the numbers for myself. It's not many, and I consider myself quite a movie buff. So here then is the premise of this podcast. Every episode, I and a rotating cast of 2 guests will randomly select one of the 1,000 films that have won an Oscar, watch it, and talk about it, with the only requirement being that one of the 3 people on each episode has to have never seen the movie before we talk about it. That will get difficult with Star Wars. Please note that our coverage of a movie does not constitute an endorsement of it. My least favorite movie of 2016, David Ayer's Suicide Squad, won an Oscar for Best Makeup, while my favorite movie of 2016, The Handmaiden, wasn't even nominated for anything. Please also note that our coverage of a movie is not a blanket endorsement of any or all of the people involved in it. A lot of terrible people have won Oscars. Kevin Spacey won an Oscar 20 years before he was outed as an abuser, and Roman Polanski won one 20 years after. But every film, good, bad, or in many cases mediocre, that has won an Oscar is an important part of film history just for being there. And they all, on some level, deserve a tiny bit of consideration, even if that consideration ends up concluding that it's garbage. And with all of that in mind, I'm your host, as always, Ellie McConaughey, and with me today is Jasmine Garcia.
Dear listeners, it is the first day of Pride Month, and how did I celebrate it? By watching the worst examples of straight people I've ever seen in my life.
And Justin Frankly.
Today I learned that James Coburn did 9/11.
What?
He was the person flying the plane in the opening bit.
There you go.
There we go. And we are here today to talk about California Suite, the 1978, is it 78? Oh god, yeah, 78 film that won Best Supporting Actress at the 51st Academy Awards. And look, I'm just gonna get this out of here right now. Those of you who saw this title or heard me make the crack about it at the end of the last episode, yeah, that's Bill Cosby in the fucking cast. That's I say in the intro that there's gonna be shitty people in these fucking movies. I think he's our current record holder for shittiest.
Yeah, but the weird thing is, seeing him in the movie wasn't even the worst part of watching this thing.
His storyline is probably the slightest, and I don't know how to explain what it's doing here. To be clear, I don't know if this was Cosby's comic styling. The big reveal I have for all of you today is that this is the first piece of media I've seen with Bill Cosby in it.
Really? Wow.
Like in your life?
In my life.
Wow.
I never watched a single second of The Cosby Show. I've seen it referenced on a whole bunch of stuff, particularly The Simpsons. We have 12 uncles and they're all jazz musicians bit from The Simpsons is kind of burned into my brain as my impression of The Cosby Show.
Well, hey, you know what? It's clearly you are not missing much.
Yeah, and I've seen, people making fun of shit like Ghost Dad or Leonard Part 6, but never bothered to seek them out. So yeah, this is it. This is the one I've seen with him in it.
I used to have some of his videos, like his stand-up. I had a few of those when I was growing up. I saw a bit of Cosby Show when I was growing up, and a handful of other things. I was one of the few people who saw Fat Albert.
Oh, right, he is responsible for Fat Albert, isn't he?
Yep.
And Little Bill.
Yep. I was going to say Little Bill. My brother and I used to watch that, unfortunately.
I think it's just one of those, confluences of my specific age, which is that, by the time I'd gotten old enough to start watching stuff that wasn't immediate, you know, when I stopped watching whatever was on TV and started seeking out older stuff, Bill Cosby had already shifted from whatever he was in the 80s to angry guy screaming at the youths to stop being youths.
I mean, he was even doing that in the 90s.
Right, and I remember the Boondocks had a lot of jokes about him doing that. And then, as I got older and started being like, okay, I should be more aware of art and culture, this is the point in my life where I started deciding I should watch MASH. I still have not watched MASH. Um, leave me alone.
Interesting choice of television to bring up, considering that one of the cast members.
I brought it up on purpose.
Kind of sad River wasn't here for this, but also no, it's not.
That would be 4 episodes in a row for River. I can't do that to them.
And also, this is not how they want their Al and Alda.
No. But like by the time I got to that point, and like people were like, Cosby Show should be on your radar as like a classic piece of media to engage with. Then Bill Cosby transferred from elderly old man screaming at kids to inhuman monster, and obviously I wasn't going to go fucking watch the Cosby Show at that point.
Yeah, no.
Bill Cosby is an interesting example for me. It's something I look into every now and again. I guess you would call it like problematic creatives and the like, because legitimately you cannot tell the history of television without including Bill Cosby.
It's kind of true.
But because of who Bill Cosby is, you don't want to include him. And so, like, every now and again, you see a thing where, like, they try to, like, weasel around it, or they try to not bring him up. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but he was there. Like another great example of this is Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Hulk Hogan became persona non grata for WWE. And I'm like, I'm sorry. He was, like, your face. He was the brand for, like, 30 years. It's impossible. You cannot get rid of him.
It's to use another black guy from the similar decade. It's Michael Jackson. People have trouble with how to engage with Michael Jackson because if you try to tell the history of 80s pop music without him,
you can't.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. You are omitting so much that your story is wrong. But Jesus Christ. And I guess that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this podcast because like like it or not, here he is in an Oscar-winning film. Kevin Spacey's going to show up at some point where we can't avoid him.
Yeah, he has like 4 landmines, and just in terms of shit he was in, not even stuff that he won.
Yeah, definitely. Like we've got there's Roman Polanski who will fucking get to him one day.
Ugh.
Yeah, correct. It's difficult. It's difficult to know how to engage with this, and fortunately for everyone who wants to avoid as much Bill Cosby as possible, this movie is not an essential watch. It is not the least essential movie we've ever covered here, but it's top 5 at least.
I was gonna say this was a solid. We're gonna go with like a 35 over 107. Like, real solid. Like that was an film.
Yep, it certainly is a movie. Again, the fact that I said that Bill Cosby's presence isn't even the worst part of it. I mean that from the bottom of my soul. And I also meant my little joke about this being the worst example of straight culture from the bottom of my soul. Because, yes, you've got the rapist actor. You've also got a cheater. You've got toxic divorcees, and even a toxic lavender marriage. And they don't even really make me laugh. If you're gonna be this terrible, you need to at least make me laugh.
The toxic lavender marriage is the one that won the Oscar. Maggie Smith, who is our winner today, who is not super problematic, but she is unfortunately extremely tied to something that's problematic.
It's not her fault.
It's not her fault, and that is also 40 years in the future, so it's not coming into it. If you came here expecting me to talk about that fucking wizard book, read another book.
And it's Dame Maggie Smith. She has had an illustrious career. She had it before and even during the time when she was involved with the Wizard book series. So no, we're not going to talk about that. She deserves better than that.
And like in a so like this, she won for this performance, partially because like I feel like the best supporting actress field this year was not very strong. I haven't seen most of the movies that were nominated. I've only seen The Deer Hunter that was nominated. And yes, Meryl Streep is extremely good in The Deer Hunter.
Whoa, Meryl Streep being good in something?
Extremely hot take. Meryl Streep's a good actress. This is also the year that Christopher Walken won an Oscar.
Huh.
So it wasn't a very strong year in the Best Supporting Actress category, and also her subplot is very devoted to the fact that she doesn't win an Oscar.
Yeah, I need to come out and say, like, of the things that you've brought me to watch for this show, this is like, bar none, the most fucking navel gazy fucking bullshit I've seen in my life in terms of Oscar anything.
It's up there.
Like, I don't engage with the Oscars outside of my participation in this show, and like I swear to God, like I never in my fucking life. They filmed at the fucking 50th.
They did, yes. Which is why the crowd's like, "Who the fuck are you talking about?" Because they're talking about fictional people.
It's very funny, but unfortunately, it doesn't translate as terribly funny in the movie for me. Like, for the record, Dame Maggie Smith, Michael Caine, Jane Fonda, and even the actress who played Millie, all very good performances. It still could not save this absolute dog shit script.
The thing is, like, on a descriptive level, I do kind of like the concept of Maggie Smith's subplot.
Oh yeah.
She has this lavender marriage with Michael Caine, and it's clearly like eating at her, but also she doesn't really know how to leave it, and it's messy and it's unpleasant, and it makes her unpleasant, it makes him unpleasant, and like there's no real answer to any of it, and that's the sort of shit I normally vibe with.
Mm-hmm. They do clearly care about each other. It's just
Mm-hmm. There is something extremely visceral and sad about what is her character's name, Diana, like telling her husband, like sort of recognizing that like she does love her husband, even if and he does love her, even if he can't love her the way she wants him to. This is why children, if you're gonna get into a lavender marriage, both of you have to be gay. Come on.
I'm still waiting for that sitcom. I think it'd be a great sitcom.
This is this is entry level shit. I have no idea where I was going with that bit, so we're just gonna jump out of it right now and get back to actual analysis. Like, there's something very visceral and sad about that, but like the central problem with this movie, and I will bring this up at several points, is like we have this extremely small scale, sad story without any real easy answers or any answers at all, really. And then you cut back over to Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor, who are in a bad episode of a sitcom. And like, what do I do with that?
All of my friends who gave me shit for loving Love Actually, I demand an apology because this movie exists and has an Oscar.
Like, and like it wounds me as well because like I'm the guy, like I really like anthology storytelling. I like when films are just like a bunch of different vignettes sort of stapled together. But typically anthologies are supposed to be like about stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having a short story, you need to have something quick, something punchy, and like, yeah, sure, like the lavender marriage subplot is probably the best of the four, but like this film suffers from like you see it a lot in like 70s films where like 70s films weren't afraid of just being like about nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's just a lot of 70s films where it's just like scenes of people having conversations, and there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but fundamentally it's a group, it's people being fucking catty with each other, and then like two of them are that, and then the other two are like one is entirely slapstick, and then the other one's like 3/4 slapstick, and then they get catty at the end when he finds, or when his wife finds out that his brother bought him a prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
Millie, you need to leave him.
Millie,
leave him.
Millie, he's not the love of your life. Hit him with your car.
Run away with the sex worker. I bet she'll treat you better.
Walter Matthau deserves better than this.
He does, and like that's what, like you say, run away with the sex worker. Like, I don't know, maybe the sex worker could run away with Maggie Smith. Maybe these stories could connect somewhere, or
that's usually what they do with this sort of thing.
Yeah, like they don't connect. They don't overlap except for like one brief scene where two of them are where they're like all at the airport leaving at the same time, not like together, just like at the same time.
Yeah, beyond the title of it being California Suite, and like I feel bad for the hotel that allowed them to shoot there because they do nothing but fucking drag this place.
It's true.
The only thing that connects any of them is the fact that it takes place at this hotel, and like on paper that's fine. Like there are other anthology stories that the only thing that does connect them is like a location. Like there's a play I was in called Almost Maine, and like the only thing that connects that story is like the fact it takes place in Almost Maine. And like each of the vignettes end with like a aurora borealis sort of tying it together. But again, it's like a through line. It's all of them share this one thing.
And there was like this anthology TV show a few years back my family really vibed with, where literally the only thing that connected each episode was they were all the characters were staying in that one place. I wish I could remember what it was called because we really liked that one.
And like I am not.
The guest book.
We have established several times on this podcast that I am not a person who requires a thrill a minute storytelling. One of my favorite movies about this year is consists entirely of two women hanging around Paris talking, and until they go to one of theirs house and hang around talking.
And yeah, you can make that work, but you need to like make us care.
You need like a theme or the like I guess the dialogue, I did kind of vibe.
It's fine.
I did eventually kind of get into the groove with Alan Alda and Jane Fonda. I wish they were in a more and like that's another one where like the story being told is kind of it's on the verge of something. It's kind of like there is something there.
Yeah.
That was my favorite of the four. They're divorced. They clearly kind of hate each other, but they also clearly kind of still like
care,
love they care a lot about each other, and I like that neither of them are monsters. Both of they're having this long argument about whether or not their daughter, who ran away from New York to go join her dad, should stay with him, or be forced back to the mother who has legal custody. And like, I like that neither of them are monsters. I like that Alan Alda he says like, I told her to leave. She doesn't want to. That this isn't like a power play on his part. That they both clearly have different ideas about how to raise this girl. And hell, I even like the resolution. It's kind of a bizarre choice, but I think Jane Fonda sells it. Again, hot take. Jane Fonda, very good actress.
Very much so. And
shocking.
And looking gorgeous as ever, of course. But what else is new?
We covered another movie of hers a few months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just like...
It was last year, Ellie.
Shut the fuck up. That was a few months ago. It was a few months. And she looked like, that was from roughly the same time period, like same 10 years. And she looked like $1 million fucking bucks in that too.
Hot take, Jane Fonda hot.
Hot take, Jane Fonda hot. But like, I needed to thematically tie into one of the other stories or like resolve in a way that's interesting. And like and maybe if there had been 3 stories and they'd all been kind of small and quiet and sad, I could have vibed with it enough to like get me over the finish line. It's not a long movie.
It felt long.
It did feel longer than it is, didn't it?
Yeah, I kept on checking to see how long it was going to be, and then I saw it was only like halfway through. He was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because part of the problem is, I really think, along with just the lack of thematic glue, part of the problem is it kind of jumps between stories very haphazardly.
Mm-hmm.
And you really don't get a chance to kind of settle in with the characters and really like feel like you're getting to know them before we end up going to another story that's completely different tone.
Mm-hmm. It's there's that scene where they cut from Diana and Sydney, which is Maggie Smith and Michael Caine,
who, for what it's worth, have excellent chemistry.
They do. They're great. I would love to see them in a better movie.
Like, please tell me they've worked together in some other things.
Oh,
Please,
probably. The British film industry is 45 actors all locked in a room. They let them out in shifts,
God,
mostly to go on Doctor Who. But where was I? I don't know where I was going with that. Brain, work with me.
like you'd go from a scene with Sydney and Diana to,
You go from them with Diana sees him flirt with a guy and kind of like gets upset about it, and then they like just randomly cut back to like Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby and their wives having run into a tow truck and like have a car on top of their car. And I'm just like, what is this fucking doing here? And I thought watching it, like I said in the chat, like I thought watching it, this has to be added for the film. Like they had to have looked at this movie, this play, because it's based on a Neil Simon play. They had to have looked at it and gone like, okay, this is too slow and sad. We want it to make money, so add in two famous comedians doing shtick. Apparently, there's plot lines in the play too.
There are like several, like, I can imagine the three other segments taking place on a stage. I cannot imagine how they possibly did that segment on a stage, because like so much of that stage is like a fucking like slapstick, like a situational slapstick comedy, just because of like different locations. Like one of the big gags, I guess you'll call it, is like one of the rooms is like fine, you know, it's in a ritzy hotel, and then the other room is like in the back porch of hell. And then like, you know, they're in a fucking tennis court and they have a whole like stick over a whole shtick over like, you know, getting injured in a tennis court, and then they like fight each other in one of the rooms. And it's like, you know, all of these different set pieces, like, you know, that they enter the film in a broken down piece of shit rental car that one of them got on like a freeway, and it's like, how do you do that on a stage? Like, you know, did the curtains come down? They had like in like a I'm trying to imagine how you would like
I mean,
theater of the mind this, I guess.
that too, but also I'm pretty sure Greece had already been on stage by this point. And nowadays we have a Back to the Future stage show, so who even knows? As for the tennis, I don't know about the slapstick, but I have seen very bantery, flirty tennis in falsettos.
I was just kind of hoping, they spend a huge chunk of their sequence hyping up this tennis game for reasons that I do not understand. It clearly means a lot to both of them, and I was really hoping it would be like the challengers metaphorical sex tennis scene from the end
Yeah,
of that movie.
yeah, no, it really like I kept on kind of looking at Richard Pryor and Bill Cosby, just like, okay, do you guys just want to make out and you just don't know how to deal with it? Is that what's going on here?
And like I don't part of the problem is that, like, okay, this might actually be the root of the problem. So like you're asking how you stage it, and I'm thinking about it in my head. And like I think the way it winds up being staged, and I haven't read the play, and I'm not that attached to Neil Simon, dear listeners.
And this was not a ringing endorsement.
No, this is not one of Neil Simon's better anything really. But if I had to guess, and I do, I would suspect that the actual staging is that it all literally takes place in the California suite. Like only the scenes that take place in the hotel are directly from the play, and the rest are things they talk about. Because that's kind of what they do when Sydney and Diana get back from the Oscars. Like they talk about how she threw up on someone when she lost because she got smashed, and we don't see that. But then, like, how do they just come in all injured from the stupid tennis game and like tell them to? I don't know. I don't know how to. I don't know how you'd make this.
Especially considering the fact their wives start acting like they're actresses from those infomercials that are actually supposed to be that are actually about, assistive devices for disabled people, but we can't sell it that way, so we gotta act like we're all uncoordinated toddlers when we're in those things.
They do start like do like the sort of shit that I would do if I wanted to wreck a hotel room without anyone knowing that's what I was doing. Like, how do you fuck up hard enough to hit your head on the bottom of the bathroom mirror? How do you do that?
Yeah, even I've never managed to do that, and I've messed up myself up through clumsiness many a time.
Mm, I don't know.
like obviously they're shooting on location for a lot of this, but if they were going to, it's a film. You can amp stuff up in a film. If they're going to go this route of making a film out of this, they could have done, I don't know, like it's a mad, 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 mad world where like they completely fucking destroy a gas station. Like they could have done that to this hotel room, but like even in the way that they break this place, it's very minor.
Mm-hmm.
Like among the more damaging things they do is like he bumps into a television and it breaks, or like he trips over a ficus and breaks like the fucking wooden thing behind it.
So Neil Simon is an extremely prolific script playwright. Like I think he has something like 40 odd plays to his name by the end of his life. A lot, and like some of them are considered classic. Barefoot in the Park and Come Blow Your Horn are considered classics as far as I know. But I feel like this is more in the vein of The Odd Couple, which he also wrote. And like I don't know, like you mentioned it's a mad, 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 mad world. Stay tuned on that one, dear listeners. And you're right. I was looking at the poster, and the poster looks like that's what it's trying to evoke. And then you watch the movie, and 80% of it is just about sad people's sad marriages.
Yeah, you have this otherwise like 70s star-studded cast, right? All of these people would have been recognizable at this point in their careers at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And like sure they do fine, none of them act poorly, as much as Richard Pryor can act, but he has nothing to do. And like yeah, again, like a lot of this film is just very tepid. It's very, what was the word that Jasmine described it as, anemic.
Mm-hmm.
It is like the banter is very anemic to me. I was just not impressed.
There's a lot of I want to say like I don't want to accuse this movie of playing to any kind of groups of people, though it was a big hit by 70 standards. Like $42 million is not nothing.
Well, yeah, of course.
There's a lot of, especially with Alan Alda and Jane Fonda's subplot. There's a lot of like, so this is aimed at people who live in New York and LA, huh?
Yeah, clearly. The coastal elites, if you will.
It is very inside baseball on a lot of that shit. And like fine, like Seinfeld is my favorite sitcom. A lot of that is New York inside baseball too. But I don't know, like it's I don't know if it lands totally. I can't tell if it hates New York and LA or loves them, which is not usually the emotion. The emotion your comedy is trying to evoke is not usually confusion.
I wish I knew. I really wish I knew. It's
Maybe like I know like this Oscars was like supposed to be you're describing it as weak, and like the other thing that this thing was nominated for was best screenplay, and it's like, how? I mean, at least it didn't win, but like this was one of the nominees.
it, I wouldn't even necessarily say that it was an extremely weak year. Maybe I'd feel more better about it if I'd seen Coming Home, which
hmm.
also has Jane Fonda. Jane Fonda won for it, actually. Which incidentally, I have this note from when I looked it up after they made a crack about it. Maggie Smith says, Glenda Jackson is up every year and she never comes. Maggie Smith was in fact nominated in not Maggie Smith. Glenda Jackson was in fact nominated in 70, 71, 73, and 75 and won twice.
Damn. Okay, there you go.
Very very popular in the 70s. Didn't really move much out of them. But how am I going to put this? I guess like maybe it could have be more. I don't know. I lost my train of thought on that. Oh, weak Oscars. Now I remember what I was saying. Weak Oscars. I don't know if it's necessarily weak Oscars. It kind of got completely overshadowed by the movie that did win most of the awards, which is The Deer Hunter, which is one of the only movies I've ever seen that like won its director, best picture, and best director, and also kind of ruined his life because it got him too high on his own supply. We'll talk about Michael Cimino one day. Deep shame what happened with his whole thing. But like, yeah, it wasn't. I don't know if it was necessarily a weak Oscar overall, but a lot of the winners were kind of weak. I'm not a huge fan of Midnight Express. This one's kind of not much of anything. Thank God it's something called Thanks God It's Friday won Best Original Song, which You know, I mentioned before that the best original song Oscar is like weird.
You have, and you're right.
The nominees that year for best original song were That, which won, Hopelessly Devoted to You from Greece, The Last Time I Felt Like This from Same Time Next Year, Ready to Take a Chance Again from Foul Play, and When Your Love from The Magic of Lassie? What the fuck is The Magic of Lassie?
What?
Don't fucking tell me, don't look me in the eyes and tell me that a fucking Lassie movie got an Oscar nomination. I will not abide it. Nope, it did. There it is.
God.
Maybe the acoustics were really good in the well.
The Sherman Brothers? I need to step away from this. I need to stop. I'm exiting out of The Magic of Lassie. We are not cannot talk about no.
We will find a way to talk about Lassie one of these days. One of those honorary Oscars they give to dogs.
The dog Oscars, the dog skers.
I'm honestly, I would totally watch an entire show called The Dogsters. Let's go.
Like to compare it to some previous episodes, like now that we're on the subject of animals, like previous 70s episode, Harry and Tonto is also a very small scale, very slight film in which nothing really happens, and most of it's just about the character, having emotions. That movie fucking slaps. And, or like Justin was on another previous episode, Breaking Away, which I think was the year before this. Nothing much happens in that movie, but it's like interesting. They ride a bike a whole bunch. That I don't know what I'm going to add for that. They ride a bike quite a lot.
They ride several bikes. He drifts behind a semi.
He does.
You have Dennis Quaid, who has not aged in 80 years because I guess he's a vampire or is taking the substance or whatever the fuck.
As you can tell, audience, we're really like. I guess we should probably talk about the Walter Matthau subplot, but like,
I love Millie. I actually quite love her. I wish she didn't decide, no, you know what? I'm going to stay with you to punish you. It's like, no, honey.
I did so like that whole subplot, and like I want to try to find a way to describe it in a pithy, funny way. But honestly, like, what am I gonna say? The dude, old Jewish guy's brother, hires him a prostitute before his wife arrives the next day. Prostitute passes out in his bed right when his wife arrives.
Hijinks ensue.
Whatever you're imagining from there, sure happens. I liked the bit at the end where she finally gets a chance to like speak about it.
Yes.
But aside from that, it's just like nothing. It's just nothing.
Like, this movie actually tries to sympathize with its female characters. I will give it exactly that point. Except for the women in the Bill Cosby, Richard Pryor bit, which, misogynoir? Maybe.
Are you suggesting that some people in the 70s might have had some unexamined racial biases?
I dare say, possibly. It's so far-fetched, but...
Well, that's like conceptually interesting, I guess. Which is like, if we want to really dig into this, and because we've only been talking for 35 minutes, I feel like I do want to, at least dig a little deeper.
We should try.
I guess it is kind of conceptually interesting that like there is nothing in the script, in the story, that requires Bill Cosby and Richard Pryor be black. They are two doctors from, I think it's Chicago. They spend a whole lot of time talking about their practices. So like, I guess it's kind of conceptually interesting that they were the ones they went with for that one instead of like, I feel like it would have been it wouldn't have been too difficult to like swap out the bar mitzvah, which is what Walter Matthau is in town for in his storyline, for something else, and like have Richard Pryor do that subplot. I guess that's kind of interesting.
I guess that's fair.
And an example of oh hey, it's that guy. His Walter Matthau's Lech brother is he's played by Herb Edelman.
Mm-hmm.
He played Stanley Zorbnia. I can never say the last name. He played Stanley in The Golden Girls.
Oh.
He was Maud's ex-husband, who was also a Lech in that show too. So I guess he was typecast.
He's barely in it, but he is very funny for the handful of minutes he's on screen in just sort of like a completely shameless kind of way.
Yeah, he's basically Leisure Suit Larry. I know that reference doesn't matter to anyone who doesn't know who that is, but it's he's Leisure Suit Larry.
That was good. That was good. I like that.
It's I said before that most of the good actors in this movie are good. I'm not sure I would say the same for Richard Pryor, unfortunately. I've definitely seen him be funnier. But in fairness, with this material.
Richard Pryor is so interesting to me because like when you he is kind of similar to, I'm going to make a comparison that I feel like sounds a little crazy. He's a little similar to Robin Williams in that his stand up stuff was so intensely filthy. Like I can't say the name of his most famous stand up concert because y'all will just fucking hang up on me if I say some of those that word aloud.
Yeah,
Uh,
probably.
I'm gonna go ahead and link it in the chat so that you can see why I can't say it. People at home, you can go ahead and go Google this yourself.
You could draw your own conclusions, honestly.
That is the title of his most famous stand-up album.
I think I know what's coming. Yep, I knew that was coming. I knew it was coming.
Yeah.
For the listeners at home, imagine what someone might say to a person who might be described as NWA.
uh,
If a person was a member of NWA, you might say that they are crazy.
so like his stand up was so filthy and so confrontational, especially for the 70s. And like they kept trying to drag him into movies, and like some of those movies are considered classics. People love Silver Streak, for example. I have friends who say it's one of their favorite comedies. But I feel like a lot of what made him interesting, you drag him into The Wiz or into Superman 3 or whatever, and he kind of loses something. And this is, he obviously can't be doing his shtick in this movie. It is too broad, and it is too, I don't want to say inoffensive, but that's the word that's coming to mind. Like it is, they have the two couple in a lavender marriage, but they never actually say that he's gay,
Nope. Never says the word. Not even once.
which I guess is fine. I so to give the listeners a peek behind the curtain on how I determine episodes. The previous I rolled for Pride Month. I rolled episodes on two sets of lists, one from the big list and one from the list of Oscar-winning movies that have some sort of connection to being gay, as curated by me and a light look at Wikipedia for a lot of them that I haven't seen. The first one, I rolled Everything Everywhere All at Once on the main roll. So I was like, okay, that's just fate. That's just getting in here. Get it in here. This one I rolled on the queer list. I rolled on the queer list because it is listed as like an LGBTQ related movie, and I'm like,
I guess technically.
Yeah, in the same way that like The Haunting is,
Or the Power Rangers reboot.
or the Power Rangers reboot. The Power Rangers reboot has less excuse though, because like I get The Haunting.
Yeah.
The Haunting kind of has to say subtext,
Because technically the Hays Code was still going, yes.
and but also because like I feel like if they went about it too directly, it would undercut the film. I haven't seen either of the Haunting shows.
I was gonna say, yeah.
They are, in my opinion, and you can disagree with me if you like, not especially direct adaptations from what I've seen.
Oh, not remotely.
What I find so interesting about them, and I've written about this before, is like at this point, given The Haunting of, I think it's Blythe Manor, having a lesbian in it is more important, or at least a queer woman in your media is more important to it being part of the Haunting brand than it being actually set at Hill House.
I mean, in fairness, the second one was Bly Manor, so it's not that it has to be a Hill House, but yeah.
That's my point. Like you can have it, you can move it outside a Hill House. You better have some girls kissing in it, though.
And they did, and it was great.
And they did. I've heard that one's very good.
And House of Usher is also fantastic. God, I love Mike Flanagan. I'm so excited for his Carrie.
Like I have thoughts. We'll talk about Carrie someday. I think it's eligible. We're not going to worry about it. We'll talk about Carrie at some point.
It's eligible for mine, don't worry.
Okay. The point is that, like, I guess in the 70s, it was still a little taboo to talk about gayness, but, like, the plot is so much about this that it feels like it's missing that they can't actually say what the problem is. And why did she decide to marry this guy if she knew he was gay but wasn't going to be chill about it?
I mean, I guess to keep up appearances.
What's that do for her?
Let her get a check. No, I guess that'd be after. We don't know how long they've been married, I guess.
And I mean, there's this one song about someone who kind of stumbles her way into this exact situation because she didn't realize her husband was gay until after they got married. It's a very fun little song, and I would actually like to see a sitcom based off of it, but this kind of made me go, so this is the bad version of that.
I mean, it could have been something that he found out about himself after they were already married.
That's possible.
Like, it could have been something that he just felt very tepid about them throughout his life, and at a certain point, it just sort of clicked. He's like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And then at that point, they're already married, and I don't know, they could be Catholic, who knows? But
I don't know. This is one of the things I was kind of getting. I get at this a lot in my notes. Like, that's interesting. That's, how long have they been married? Oh, you can't tell us because you have to make time for Richard Pryor to trip over a fucking tennis net. Okay,
Sure.
like, it's one of those things where it's like, if obviously they're basing this off of a screenplay or a stage play, so you can't really edit it as such. But if like, I don't know, if one of these segments was removed to allow the other three to expand and actually be like about something, that would probably be the optimal way. Give more time for the Al and Alda Jane Fonda situation, even if just them bitching at each other more. Give more time to the Millie ripping Herb's heart out, her husband's brother's heart out, because he was a fucking moron. Give more time to Maggie Smith and Michael Caine's character, just to flesh it out more. I'm saying this because I still feel the weakest is not to get him out of the film or anything, but the slapstick.
Oh, 100%.
That one is like entirely slapstick, and it's the weakest of all three of the weakest of the four.
It is easily.
Like, that's the thing. They gave these actors kind of the worst storyline, and that feels gross to me.
I don't know. Like, it's such a weird. Again, like, I keep coming back to it. Like, it feels so out of place, and it doesn't add up to anything. And, like, yeah, I guess we could spend some more time with Alan Alda and Jane Fonda sniping at each other. That's at least kind of fun. It's not like top tier banter, but
it's banter, and obviously Alan Alda knows how to do quips, and so does Jane Fonda, clearly.
And honestly, it's kind of like one of the few compliments I have in my notes is, like, it is actually reasonably elegant about, like, it doesn't shotgun blast you in the face with the exposition of what's going on right up front. It lets the conversation get you the pieces of information you need to understand what these two people are here doing and what their conflict is. But also, like, I'd love to hear from the daughter about any of this.
We get, like, one scene of her in the end, and she's just like, oh, thank you.
She has, like, one line at the very end, and, like, that's it. And, like, okay, if you're gonna do that, you gotta go all the way. You gotta either have her be like the Germans in Dunkirk and she never fucking shows up, or she's gotta be a character. You can't half-ass this.
Nope.
I don't know, that's sort of like, actually, that might be my review of the movie. It's kind of half-assed.
It's so half-assed. And yeah, like I said, it's very anemic in its humor. It doesn't use its actors very well. It's just such a nothing little film that doesn't seem to be about anything, isn't really trying to be funny. It's what am I supposed to take from this?
It's so interesting to me, honestly, that it was nominated for best screenplay and best, I want to say, like, art design or something. Actually, let me look at this. Production design, really? Really? Production design?
Maybe they just really liked the paintings at the start.
I like the paintings at the start, but that's not like what do you? I mean, I'm digging through these.
If you super squint at it, one of the things I wrote down in my notes was, if you super squint at it in a metatextual sense, Bill Cosby's section is broadly about him being an overbearing person who abuses women
Hmm.
just through negligence and
True. Oh my god, production design didn't even get fucking onto the Wikipedia page. They dropped it off.
Ew.
How did that happen? I'm gonna go edit the Wikipedia page when I get back. So it lost to Heaven Can Wait, which is a movie I haven't seen. Brinks Jobs, never heard of that. The Wiz.
the character at Heaven Can Wait would have died on March 10th of this year.
Wow.
So yeah, one of the movies that didn't win that year at the Oscars for production design was The Wiz. Speaking of Richard Pryor, I don't know. Like, it's so interesting to me that it got like an above. This might be the lowest review score on Rotten Tomatoes I've ever seen for an above the technicals when it has like a 48% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is fascinating to me. I don't know. Did they really just love the meta text of the movie where she bitches about not winning an Oscar for her that much?
I'm gonna guess yes. I mean, we've said it before. The Academy just loves it when a movie essentially goes down on them.
But it doesn't go down on them. It's making fun of them.
They like it when I don't know. I don't know. I guess they have a humiliation cake. I don't know.
I'm trying to remember the name of the trope, but it's like, at the end of the day, most writers are writers.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's just like, here is this a film about how terrible it is to be a writer in Hollywood, written by a person who probably felt it's terrible to be a writer in Hollywood, or be an actor, or being in Hollywood at all. God will forsake California when it slides into the ocean.
I do like the implications of that phrase being that not every writer is a writer. Not that Maggie Smith would know anything about working with a writer who's not really a writer.
What a terrible thing to say about Othello. This is probably the most dated film, literally, because we know that since it had shot at the Oscars, on the Oscars, this film would have had to have taken place over the span of a day that we see.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in that regard. I mean, even beyond like the cultural touchstones that would be more obvious to a person who was, there in the 70s, just seeing this as a vertical slice of this is just what life was like then, or like, the cars, the clothing, just people on the street and shit.
I mean, like, I'm always interested in movies. Maybe not like as art pieces of themselves, but I'm always kind of like into movies that are very of their moment because, like, how do I put this in a way that makes sense? So like one of the narratives that emerges from people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about like the Oscars is a really good example. The Oscars are bad now, but they used to be good. They used to award deserving and important films, or like movies nowadays are bad, but because look at all this trash that's in theaters. Look at all these important movies made in like the 70s. And I'm going to skip over the fact that people who say that are ignoring very important films that are coming out right now. But also, like, man, you don't know all the trash that came out in 1978. That 1978 is pushing 50 years ago. We don't know the garbage that came out, that clogged up theaters in 78 because who bothered to fucking remember any of it?
Yeah, essentially. It's the same reason why people say pop music is bad now. It's like, no, pop music was always like this.
Yeah, you just don't remember. Like, it's easy to remember disco as this like great cultural force when time has whittled it down to a couple dozen stone classics with a very strong connection to queer and black culture. But a lot of disco was startlingly lame, made by lame white people. But we don't. No one bothered to preserve that. No one bothers to look into it unless it's like for something like this. So I think there is value in just like taking a snapshot of 78 and looking at it, or 78, 78, 77, wherever, whenever they shot the fucking thing. They used to make movies faster.
That too.
I don't know, like that's some value, but it's value to me, and I'm standing outside. I'm dragging Justin and Jasmine into the room to watch this movie, and then standing outside the window with the sicko shirt on, going ha ha ha, yes.
On the first day of Pride Month, no less, Ellie.
Look, would you rather I rolled the Danish girl, Jasmine?
There was no winning, was there?
There are a handful of stone cold classic queer movies that have won Oscars. Just some of the absolute best you'll ever see. Moonlight won an Oscar.
True.
There's also like Boys Don't Cry.
Oof.
We've got to deal with them all eventually.
Well, of course.
Of course.
This is pretty high up there on my stupid tangents. But a thing that my mind kept doing every time I would see Jane Fonda is thinking, "Wow, if she looked like this now, she would be great in the inevitable biopic they're going to do about Hillary Clinton." It's like her and what the fuck is her name? Like Annette Bening. Both of them, just like if they wanted to, if they wanted to cast a Hillary Clinton type.
Damn.
Because ultimately that's part of that's her arc. That's she's a nondescript Eastern elite working woman in the 70s.
And man, I'm gonna go ahead and say I'm just gonna go ahead and put this out here. I'm gonna put this evil into the world right now.
Oh God. Oh God.
Aaron Sorkin needs to write a Hillary Clinton biopic next week. Do it, Aaron. And the world will burn. There will be riots in every theater.
God.
As we're forced to watch it. Jane Fonda's been like really interesting to me as a celebrity, because like in much the same way as like Snoop Dogg kind of kind of slowly transitioned from from like a dude who was on trial for murder to like Martha Stewart's friend Snoop Dogg. The arc of history has done odd things to Jane Fonda. I don't think people in general are aware of how much people, especially in the 70s, a large chunk of the country absolutely fucking hated her guts.
Yeah, this is only 6 years after the whole what was it, like Hanoi Jane thing.
Hanoi Jane, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I like that she never became I like maybe her movie choices have gotten safer, but she's still out there like getting arrested for doing activism, and I like that about her.
Oh, it's one of her most winning qualities. Like, goddamn, you're that gorgeous, that talented, and just have the best politics. What a queen!
What a queen. Too bad your movie choice isn't always the best.
Yeah.
To wit, this film. We're like nearly at an hour. Whatever. Anyone else have anything else they'd like to add? I feel like we're shortchanging Walter Matthau, but I really don't have any. I didn't even take any notes during most of his. It's just like nothing.
It's just LOL, this guy cheated on his wife. Please laugh.
We've got the least convincing, like, okay, so I don't really drink all that much. This is the caveat that I'm opening up with, but like, I refuse to believe that someone could be so drunk that they are as heavily asleep as this woman is and not be in serious medical danger.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I thought the whole thing was that she was gonna be dead.
I think like that would be, I don't want to say that would be better, but that would be something. That would be dark. I don't really feel like the movie is. I don't think that would make the movie any better in this context, because like the whatever I think about their writing failures, both Alan Alda and both the divorcee subplot and the lavender marriage subplot do have a lot of empathy for their characters, and that is a start. That would be a startlingly mean plot line to go with if she was dead.
Oh yeah, no, it would not have made the movie better, and in fact, I was terrified of what would have been if it did turn out she was dead.
I admit that this happens occasionally for me, just not like being able to, let's say, read a room. I'll use a different example as well. So in the film Say Anything, the love interest's dad, like 1000% committed tax fraud, right? Like there's a whole fucking gag about he is doing like literally everything they do to like hide his assets because he's like buying shit and like hiding it as furniture.
Uh-huh.
I don't think he did it. Even though that's the gag, even though that's everything, when he's like at the end of the movie, just kind of like, I don't do anything. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I'm like, I believe you implicitly. So in this film, when Walter Matthau wakes up in that bed with this unconscious drunk woman next to him, he's like, how did you end up here? I'm like, I believe you implicitly. I don't think they slept together.
I mean, like, if he hadn't slept with her, but he can't convince his wife otherwise, again, that'd be something.
Well, like that was almost part of the gag because like as he's trying to like thread the needle of like, okay, so like you're gonna get like really mad and you're not gonna believe me, but you know, hypothetically, if a thing could have happened, don't be mad.
I don't know. Like, I want to find something interesting to say about it. I don't.
It had one of the better jokes at the end.
With the
Which one?
When they're leaving and they get into the same taxi the hooker's leaving in, and he's like, you can't be serious, we're not going to drive with this woman. She's like, you know, we can't dock with strangers. He's like, oh, she's not a stranger.
Yeah, no, that I actually genuinely liked. Again, Millie, you deserve better. Please run away with this woman. I think she'd be down.
Yeah, like, I'm straight up telling you, movie. Like, if if you had turned around in the last 5 minutes and it turned out that prostitute was also there to see her girlfriend Maggie Smith, 100% better movie. Though it would have undercut Maggie Smith's sad monologue at the end.
And we'd feel a lot better about this being part of the Pride Month lineup.
We would, not just because every movie is better with lesbians, because that would be something. It would be something.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I guess is my end review. I don't really do like, is the force with it, or why does this endure?
It doesn't. I'd never even heard of it before you rolled it.
You know, that's sort of like the thing that's interesting. Movies don't always endure. Some of them are forgotten unfairly. You know, one I mentioned Harry and Tonto a bit ago. That movie is not available in any format, or at least it wasn't when I covered it. Like we had to go pirate it. It's good. Probably doesn't deserve to be forgotten. But like this one, I don't know. Like I've never heard of it, and once I hit stop recording on this, I'll probably won't ever think about it again.
Yeah. Unless I look at my letterbox stats, I guess.
It is a number on my letterbox. I think that you still have my least. When I look at all the movies I've seen on Letterboxd and see which one is rated the lowest, I think on popularity, I think you still have me at my lowest one, Jasmine.
Oh.
Let me look. I'm gonna look. You're gonna make. I'm gonna cut out all the part where where I'm talking about this, or like at least shorten it down. Okay, no. You and Sam have me at number 2 and 3. Third least popular movie I've ever seen is With This Kiss I Die.
Yeah, that tracks. God, talk about wasted opportunities.
Talk about wasted opportunities. I don't have any more thoughts to share. Anyone got any final parting words?
Do yourself a favor and watch something different for Pride Month.
Agreed.
Watch. Now let's see.
Watch Moonlight.
Yeah.
Watch Payback. That's a much better James Coburn film.
Turns out Maggie Smith and Michael Caine were in a movie together besides this, and it looks like it is a rom-com in which they are two ghosts trying to convince James Spader not to get married. I'm sure it's at least a little more fun than this.
There you go. I will talk River into including that.
Yeah.
Actually, thinking about it, that film's also problematic because Payback stars Mel Gibson. We can't win.
You can't win.
Nope.
When did we as a society decide that we were allowing Mel Gibson back? I didn't vote on that. I didn't vote for that.
They keep doing it. That's the worst part. They keep doing it. How many second chances is this man gonna get?
I've probably told this joke before or this anecdote before, but I was sitting there in the theater watching trailers for a movie, and they came up with a trailer for a movie he's directed starring Mark Wahlberg. Speaking of people whose Wikipedia entries have like a whole list of crimes on them, and you know they pop up from the Academy Award winning director of Braveheart. I'm just sitting there going, "What's his name, movie? What's his name?" You put his credit in the trailer. You're not going to put his name. I have my notepad right here. What's his name? And they just, of course, they never bring it up.
Whenever they have Mel Gibson, instead of his name, they should just include that still frame and from the trailer of Apocalypto, where it's him with a big fucking beard standing next to a guy smiling. That just like the subliminal image they have on the trailer.
I'm just saying, if you're willing to work with him and Mark Wahlberg, who, again, Jesus Christ, just fucking put his name in the trailer. What are you gonna fucking do? Fuck it. No one gets any consequences anymore. Jasmine, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
I am the host of A Neat Retelling, the podcast where we explore all the ways old tales are made new, in which we'll have a chance. We've already had a chance to talk about a much better Michael Caine film. We've already talked about The Christmas Carol, and I'm sure there's more Michael Caine and Dame Maggie Smith films we could talk about on there. And you can find me at Favor VR on all the socials.
And I am on all 4 of Jazz's episodes for this Pride Month.
Yeah, baby.
Yep. Justin, your plugs always make me laugh. Hit me.
Yes.
Let's see. What's the plug for this film? My plug for this episode is the cap of a bottle of Jose Cuervo Black Medallion, which is drunk by a prostitute paid for by my brother.
Thank you, Justin. That bit will never get old.
Justin, do you ever feel guilty about coming onto my podcast and just being funnier than me?
No.
Good. Don't.
Good answer.
As always, you can find me, Ellie, on Tumblr at Football in Tuxedos with dashes between the words. You can find me on Blue Sky, Medium, and Letterboxd at LSR42. And you can find this podcast on Blue Sky at Biggest Night Pod. We are available on both Spotify and YouTube. And if you follow us on YouTube, be sure to give us a subscribe, maybe like and comment on the videos so that you can tell me which parts you like and which parts you don't. And thank you all for coming out to talk about California Suite with me. I'm sorry this movie is kind of this. Right. So we've decided next month we'll be out of Pride Month, or next episode will be out of Pride Month. So we are decided to go something a little straighter, but also a little bit more interesting. We are going to be covering Fame next time.
I'm gonna live forever.
Jasmine's gonna live forever. We'll see you there.